Hi everyone, and welcome to the Back 40 Feet, where we talk about suburban, urban, and patio gardening. And today's project is setting up another type of season extender called a grow tent, which is behind me. And this is basically a portable greenhouse. So let's take a look. So this one is about 8 foot long and 4 feet wide, which is great for people if you have a raised bed garden, because that's kind of a common size for a raised bed garden. And if we go around here, we can see that there's a bit of a window that can be used to vent when it gets too hot in here. And then I have 2 really large doors on either side so I can access my plants that I'm going to put in here. So why would I want a season extender of a grow tent? But because I have a small garden, a permanent greenhouse is really not going to work for this yard. I would love to have a greenhouse, but I just don't have the space. That's why it's the back 40 feet. But what I can do instead is, when it's the right time of the year, I can put up, very simply, a portable greenhouse, which is what that grow tent is. And the intent that I'm really using it for is to get the seedlings that I've started that are in the basement acclimated to the outside. So because that has doors and windows in it, I can really make sure that they're getting a little bit of wind and a little bit of sun, so that once I take them out of the grow tent, they'll be much sturdier and hardier to put into the ground. Now, that particular grow tent does not have any openings to the sky, so yes, it's plastic, but there's not going to be any way to get rain in it, and that's something I'm going to have to be really careful with when using a grow tent or any other season extenders, is that when you first put seedlings in there, you really need to make sure that they're watered and that they stay watered. It's very easy for them to get dry and wilted, especially when they're not acclimated yet to outside. So I've kept a weather eye on the weather, and it looks like we're going to have mostly partly sunny, partly cloudy, a little bit of rain here and there for the week, but no extremes. Knock on wood, it is New England. And hopefully I will be able to get my tomatoes, peppers, eggplants all moved into the grow tent, and by Memorial Day, hopefully I'll be able to put them in the ground. The other thing about the grow tent is it does have an open bottom, so it serves a second purpose, that it helps to start to heat up the soil, so that the ground may actually be warmer than it ordinarily will be when I put my tomatoes into the main garden, which I'm really looking forward to. I could use this to start some seedlings, but I'm still going to use my grow lights because I have a little bit more control over the sunlight. So at this point, we're getting about 14 to 15 hours of daylight daily. So that's plenty of energy units to keep the plants growing. What I would like to do is hopefully not have to transplant my tomatoes into a larger pot before Memorial Day, and I'd like to just put them into the ground, because every single time I transplant them, they get a little bit of a setback and a shock by a week or two. But some of the tomato plants are getting quite tall, and by putting them here in the grow tent, I'm not limited by the space in the grow system I have in my basement, so they can continue to grow. And we'll see. I'll keep an eye on them every day, and probably every day I'll come out and open up the windows a little bit and let the heat out so that they don't get overstressed. During the daytime, I'll undo the zippers a little bit so that they don't get too hot in there. And then once the sun starts to go down, I'll zip them back up, and that will help to retain the heat. Now, these don't retain quite as much heat as some of the other season extenders, because this thing is pretty much close to about 5 feet tall, and that's a lot more space to try to maintain heat. Whereas when you're looking at some of the shorter season extenders, like my row covers, or if you have a cold frame, we haven't talked about that yet, those are a lot lower, and that they could stay warmer in there. Now, I do know some people that will use a grow tent and put it over their cold frame so that they can really extend their harvest well into Christmas. I haven't done that. It's hard enough trying to get the cold frame up or other things out of the ground, and I just don't want to do that when the ground's frozen. But this is what I do in the spring to harden off my seedlings. And these are the tomatoes that I repotted last weekend. They're looking great. And they are going to go into the grow tent, which is behind them. And I'm going to leave them in a tray when I put them in there because it's going to be a lot easier to control the amount of water they get, because then I could just water the tray. Although if I put the pots on the soil, they'd be less apt to dry out as quick, but it would be a bigger chore to water them. And you can kind of see that they're already looking a little bent over. And that's just because I moved them and they haven't really strengthened up to be strong enough to withstand wind or some mild handling. So this is why it's really important to harden off your seedlings.